Welcome to the Melanin Private Practice Group podcast with your host, JLW. In this podcast, we focus on providing helpful information to new and existing mental health practitioners interested in starting a private practice and or those who are currently in it but just need a little bit of help. If you are ready to receive this word, let's dive in. Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another season and episode of the Melanin Private Practice Collective. I'm your host, JLW, and y'all, I am super excited to be back. If you have been following us since the first year that we started, you know that season 2, we only put out 2 episodes. And it broke my heart, but at the same time, I was so blessed. Last year, God did exceedingly and abundantly above all I could ever ask or think, and He blew the doors wide open in our consulting business, and my time became very restricted. I had to focus on particular tasks and obligations and deadlines, and in reassessing each quarter, one thing that I started to pay attention to was the pockets of time that I didn't have and how much I wanted that time back. And so when He says, I'm going to bless you and you're not going to have room to receive, He means it, y'all. Because, baby, I did not have the room. But I'm thankful because this year I was placed in a position to start getting help. And I had hired ePartners marketing agency down in Jacksonville, Florida, who has been our social media manager. And let me tell you, I not only got time back, but I also got a return on my investment in just a short time. We've seen an increase in engagements. We've seen an increase in accounts reached. So I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys because we're going to share the ways that we improve time in our business and hope that during this season of being booked, blessed, and busy, you will reframe the way that you see that phrase, right? Being booked, blessed, and busy does not mean that you have to be stressed, overworked, and overburdened. I don't know why I struggle to say that word. Overburdened. But instead, we want you to be balanced, right? We want you as business owners to have a life outside of your business while also being intentional on the priorities you're setting. And a part of being able to do that is evaluating your processes, both professionally and personally. So one thing that I like to do is I like to assess my pockets of time in my personal life. And I set this threshold. This threshold is across every area of my personal life that I dedicate time to. So whether that's time, my personal time with God, whether it's fitness, whether it is ministry, dance ministry, whether it is the youth ministry, whether it is school, whether it is my family, whether it is my self-care, I set times for the month. And if I am above that time, then I have to look at why I overextended my time in those particular areas. If I'm below that threshold, I have to look at what did I have going on both personally and professionally that resulted in me spending less time in an area that I had dedicated. And that helps me reassess my business time, right? As a consultant, I'm not just managing your clinic or your practice, but I'm also managing mine. So a part of being able to do that requires me to do the 5 Whys assessment. Now, the 5 Whys assessment helps me to identify why certain processes are in place. Typically, there's a problem, and in this instance, we're talking about time. And so if I'm identifying that I don't have enough time to meet deadlines, or I don't have enough time to dedicate it to ministry or to self-care, I need to ask myself why I don't have the time. And after going through both the personal assessment and the professional assessment, I'm then able to say, how do I get more time back? You would ask it in the form of a why, but in that instance, it would be, why can't I get more time back? What is the pressing need for me to overextend time in this particular area? Then I can ask myself, well, why did I take this project? Or why did I take on this task? Or why did I make the decision to exert more time in this area? What relief is going to come by doing that? Or what potential problems is it going to create after that? And then I ask myself another why. After I've identified why I've overexerted, I need to ask, well, why didn't I do it this way? Or why didn't I reach out and cancel this particular client, right? And being able to ask that why will help me when I now utilize the gap analysis. I've identified why each decision was made at every stage. Now I need to go backwards and I need to identify where we are. The where we are is going to be that first why. We don't have pockets of time. And then I need to identify the desired state, the desired goal. That desired goal, I need to create action steps in between. And in order for me to meet that desired goal, each action step has to be both intentional and it has to help me reach that goal. So this brings us to talking point number 2, delegation. In order for me to delegate work, I need to know what needs to be delegated. I need to know what areas, pockets of time I'm getting back, both professionally and personally. So since we started with a professional example, I'll continue with that. If I've taken on a client and I know that it's going to require more work for this client, I need to be able to hire somebody that's going to help me get back time to meet that client's needs. And that means that I need to now look at the financial piece of it in addition to the process and in addition to the time. And I need to look at how much of the resources we have internally can I reinvest into someone else who can help me so that I can get time to focus on this client while taking other areas of the business and giving it to somebody else. We talked about earlier that we hired ePartners Marketing Agency in Jacksonville, Florida to help us with social media. I got back time. So it allowed me to dedicate more time in other areas. And by accomplishing that task, I was able to meet a deadline for my client to open their new clinic, right? So this is what we talk about in terms of reassessing and creating action steps to help meet the deadlines and the obligations in other areas. Because the one thing I don't want to happen is that I take on a client and then I take on another client and then I'm unable to meet their needs, right? Because I understand that if I overextend myself, if I or underperform, that it's going to have an impact on you. The other thing that I also have to take into consideration, because it's something that I've seen consistently throughout the board, one of the things that our clients have done in the past is they don't tell you all the problems they're experiencing because there is a level of fear that comes into place. Their fear of judgment, fear of ridicule, fear of gossip, fear of all these things. And so they withhold certain things from you. And as a consultant, it was also imperative in those assessments that we did internally to look at the types of questions we are asking up front. Because what we found is that when we asked the questions up front in our assessment tool, we got the answers. But if we didn't redirect people to the assessment tool initially, we were finding out things thereafter. So we had to improve that process so that we could give a accurate estimate of how much time it would take us to help improve their processes. It was also a way to assess and flush out people who were mentally not ready for our assistance. And what I mean by mentally not ready is people who came, they say they want the help, but their actions don't match it, right? I'm looking at, when I assess you and I assess the business, I'm also looking at body language. I'm looking at actions, the things that you've done leading up to coming to find our agency, but most importantly, how you're setting expectations of the relationship that we're building as consultant and client. Your expectations for timeline, are they realistic? Are you open to adjustments and feedback based off professional expertise? All of these things matter, the level of pushback that we give, but it's also a way for us to also understand why that pushback is coming, right? What is it that's pressing you as the client that requires this to be done by a certain date and time? What is it? Is it the amount of resources that you have, and how do we solve the resource problem? Is it the amount of commitment, you're just on your final straw, or is it something else? All of these things matter. And so for us internally, being able to be more efficient and to show up for our clients, it required us to have to delegate, right? It required us to take a look at the past year, recognize that there were some things that needed to be changed, whether it was based off feedback, whether it was based off, what I felt internally, and be able to improve and provide more sustainable, efficient services. And so in order for me to delegate, this also meant I had to be more intentional, okay? Intentionality is not just about setting objectives, setting your goals, and planning the daily tasks that help you to achieve those goals. Being intentional also means being diligent and making sure that you're stewarding the resources in the right way. Everything you do has to be tied to your plan. And the reason why business experts encourage people not to deviate from their plan is because your plan is your roadmap, right? We can't treat our business plan like we treat Google Maps. We know where we're going, and so we don't follow the GPS, and then we find that we ran into traffic down the road because we didn't trust why the GPS was taking us out of the way, right? Your business plan, sometimes even your quarterly plan, is your roadmap for how you're going to achieve your goals. And if you're going to deviate from it, you need to follow the proper steps in order to document the deviation and make sure that your assessment of why you're adjusting and deviating away from the plan is going to be in alignment. Because if you deviate away from that plan and you don't account for the future things that are going to happen, you've often probably heard business professionals talking about forecasting, predicting what could happen in the future based off what's happening in the now, right? If you don't prepare for that, then the plan that you deviated was solely focused on the now, and now you've redirected the course of your plan because you weren't aware of what was going to happen in the future. And we'll take another episode to talk about predicting and forecasting and making business decisions off future trends. But for right now, we're focusing on intentionality and making sure you understand that everything you do has something and someone attached to that decision. I'll give you an example. When I think this was 2020, when the mental health crisis, I mean, we've always had a mental health crisis, but when it exaggerated, many practices opened their doors. Okay, there was a huge shift in the market. You saw a lot more counselors shutting down, payers for reimbursement, and only being cash based. And the first thing I said was, I am so glad that these providers are sticking to their worth and they're standing their ground and they are going after the money that they well deserve because of the amount of schooling they've done. However, becoming solely cash based will affect the demand. It will. It will affect the demand. And while I love that y'all stood your ground and you advocated and you said you need to pay us more, but more importantly, until you change your ways, we're not going to take on insurance base. Your members are going to have to pay out of pocket. The demand for therapy went low. And so this surge of patients swarming practices started to decrease. The supply was limited, the demand was high, and then it shifted. The supply became higher and the demand became fewer, and you saw more providers going right back to insurance because they did not plan for the amount of job losses and layoffs that were going to continue to take place in their market and beyond. Some had to re-strategize and start moving into other territories where cash pay was higher or where the supply of therapists was fewer. And so they started offering services there depending on their licensure and whether or not it was accepted. So when we talk about being intentional and the effects of your decision, everything you do affects both the local economy and collectively the national. So being able to make a decision that is going to be both beneficial to you and the community stakeholders and continue to set you apart is going to require time for proper planning. And if you are not intentional about the time that you are giving for proper planning, you're going to affect your business negatively. And then now you're going to have cash flow problems. We don't want that. Now you're going to have staff that's stressed out because they're dealing with more clients than they can handle, or they're receiving more complaints in regards to the lack of access to your practice. Intentionality of your time is going to require you to do things differently than what you've done before. And I'm solely talking to the person that resonates with the information that we're sharing, right? This message is not going to be for everyone, but it would be wise. It would behoove you to heed to the wisdom and be mindful and treat it as a reminder if it's not something you're currently doing. Because when it comes to you meeting your goals of being able to branch out and do other things, whether it's expanding your practice, whether it's philanthropy, whether it is advocacy, whether it is more time with family, you have to make sure that business is good. And so the model that we are using for this season, booked, blessed, and busy, requires you to think, how can you be booked without overburdened? How can you be busied? How can you be busy and still be balanced? And how can you be blessed so that you're reinvesting your time and reinvesting your resources so that you continue to scale and grow and do the things that you're called to do? That is my time, folks. I hope that in this episode, you are questions for you. Have you really considering how you're showing up, how you desire to show up, and what you can do in the now to improve and become the best version of yourself as a business professional, as a mom, as a wife, as a sister, as a daughter, as a friend, as a cousin, as a congregant, as a ministerial member. Our goal And everything we do with this podcast and with our business is to help improve your lives and the lives attached to you. And so I thank you for tuning in to this episode and being the best part of the Melanin Private Practice Collective, an extension of JLW Medical Management Consulting in Boston, Mass. For those of you who've been following us for a while now, you know that on July 19th, we will be having a business shower called Breaking Barriers, a business shower for mental health professionals. And our aim is to celebrate you as business professionals who are new in the entrepreneurial space or have been here for a while and just really need to be honored for the work you are doing day in and day out. This business shower aims to provide resources to you. We have amazing speakers lined up. Whether you are looking for more tips on self-care, whether you are looking to improve your financial health and wealth, or you are looking for someone who can help you with your marketing needs or identify funding opportunities, this business shower aims to bring those resources into one place and to help you guys do exactly that. Be better, become better, and scale better. So make sure you mark your calendars. You can find the link to the event in the show notes, but you can also visit us on Eventbrite and type in Breaking Barriers, a business shower for mental health professionals, and you should see us pop right up. As always, don't hesitate to visit us on the web at www.jlwmedicalmh.org. It was an honor and a privilege to be here with you, and we will see y'all next week. Bye for now. Well, friends, that's our time. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. This podcast is sponsored by JLW Medical Management Consulting. We are now accepting applications for the patient referral program and the 90-day private practice bootcamp. If you would like to learn more, please visit us online at www.jlwmedicalmh.com. We look forward to seeing you next time.